Okay, people, so let us get into this new documentary, Being Ola. Okay, it is the latest joint from Ragnhild Nøst Bergman. She writes and directs. It is produced by Lukas Hansen, Aaron Hogivet, and Eivind Vesterhus. Right? Eivind Hannisdal handles the score. Ragnhild Nøst Berge, she also handles cinematography. She edits the joint along with Helge and Stefan Sandulf. Yeah, I think that's most of our, the big parts of production. The film, it stars, we have Ola Henningsen, his parents, Pierre Henningsen and Tone Henningsen. There's Emil Hotgard, Lars Kurtegard Christian, and Akel Rudd. Right, they're a lot of the main people that we see in, but there's a whole swathe of people that we meet really in this. Right, the gist is this: warm-hearted, honest, and passionate about equality and belonging. Ola is 30 years old and lives with many different people in the village of Vidaråsen in Vesterhus. Here they live close to nature at a slower pace, and the small community is founded on inclusion, understanding, and respect. Ola is committed, funny, and honest. He has a mild developmental disability and talks openly and with wonder about this. When Ola loses an important piece in his life, he reflects on life and what he can do to become more independent. Ola, a very ordinary, unusual guy. Because that's what the title is, if you actually translate it from the Norwegian title. But they changed it to Being Ola, right? But it's a heartwarming film about equality, belonging, and the importance of feeling safe enough to be who you are. It is close and honest portrait, which helps to break down the distinction between us and them. Which, I will say is probably one of the most honest synopsises that we've come across, right? This film, right, it's Bergman's fourth joint, right? And there is this real just charm to it all. It's not trying to do too much, right? There's a lot of times, I think, with things like this where people try, and especially when it's a foreign film, right? Which I wasn't quite sure about, right? My boy Tom sent it across, and Tom says me a lot of stuff, so I'm like, oh, anytime, man. You know what I mean? You want to organize time, we'll do it. Then I went to watch the film and realized it's in Norwegian, so it was all subtitled, right? It's just over an hour. It took a lot longer to watch this. Right? The subtitles are, oh man, like there's no solid background. There's a lot of white. So yeah. But with things like this, a lot of times they are trying to capture everything. Right? But this, it was just like a lot of background noise and conversations that we didn't really need to know about. They just said, just background noise, right? Which was very helpful, because it's just drilling down to what this was, what it is about, and that is essentially Ola. Right? He's living in this community, and there's people with different levels of, I think it's just all learning disability, right? They say intellectual disability, right? So it's just all different people on different scales, just with everything. You know what I mean? Not everyone's the same intelligence, right? Not everyone's the same creative. Not everyone is the same. It's just what it is, But for whatever reason, I think, and it says it in the film, right? We put certain groups of people under one banner, which is so odd. You know what I mean? With a lot of other things, there are a lot of different descriptive words, right? Terms, ways to classify. But then with others, there is not, right? It was crazy interesting to find out that, a lot of Inuit cultures, there are a whole heap of different words for snow, right? But then I guess you realize it does make sense, because snow isn't just one thing. There's different types of snow, right? But you were just told, as a kid growing up, snow is snow. So it's just like, when you realize that, I think it's kind of like cataracts coming off the eyes, right? Coming off the brain. You realize there is more nuance in the world than you expected. And I think the beauty of pieces of work like this is it does that, right? These kind of things, they get rid of that cataracts off the brain, because they let people understand everyone is so similar. Right? Ola is just having fun, cracking jokes, right? He's having this conversation with Lasse, and he's like, oh man, I used to just be a straight clown, but you know what I mean? I've learned to kind of, be more nuanced and develop who I am as a person, but yeah, there's still nothing wrong with, having fun. Right? And it's just this. It's Ola is very introspective. More introspective than a lot of people, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? And we're just kind of following him quietly, gently, through his life. And yeah, we're just seeing him do different classes and integrating with different people and just enjoying himself. Right? There is this moment where, for a lady's birthday that helps out at the village. It's her birthday, so they throw her a big party, and people do different things to kind of say thank you. And Ola was playing a piece on the piano. It's chopsticks, right? I didn't realize it was chopsticks. I thought it was a different Norwegian chopsticks, but then because I'd forgotten there's two parts, and he was only playing one part of it, right? But he's so we see him practicing. And he's absolutely fine, right? But it doesn't necessarily go that well. And, he's on stage, right? We don't know what he's necessarily thinking in the moment, right? But just the body actions, right? Just the way he chooses the piano, right? Just... yeah, it was tough. It was a tough moment. But one of the ladies, she talks to him, and he's just like, yeah, can we go again? So after the interval, they were able to do it again. Boom. It's a 180. He turns it around, knocks it out of the park. And the relief, the happiness, right? It's just these little moments give us this clear indication of who Ola is, right? His friend Lasse, who works at the village, you know, like that relationship and seeing what it means to Ola and really how it is a part of the catalyst for Ola taking more steps for independence, right? Because I think he says it's something I think about all the time, but you know what I mean, he just didn't do, because I think there's a comfortability about being in a situation where, you know, if you run up against something difficult, there is someone to ask, right? But when you're going out completely on your own, that's when things get a lot tougher. But he did it, and man, you could see how much that meant, right? What that gave him, you know? And the film, it's got a lot of these kind of moments. A lot of them are smaller moments, right? Smaller experiences, expressions, but they're all pieces of Ola, right? I think, yeah, I really do think that Ragnhild has done a really nice job of getting Ola in a place where he felt comfortable to open up, right? To express himself in these ways, you know, and just get this really interesting look at his, you know, just this small fragment of his life. You know, like he talks about, you know, being a kid and what it was like, right? The moment when he, you know, they understood what was going on, right? Getting that diagnosis at the hospital. But then also just, you know, how he behaved towards his parents at times, just all of these different things, which, you know, not going to be easy talking about, you know, definitely not going to be easy to talk about, but he does, you know, he opens up, he lets us into this part of who he is. And that introspection, that reflection, you can see his evolution, you can see his growth, right? How he has changed as a person, the things he's aspiring to then be. Just all of this is here, right? All of this is here. And it's just nice, right? It's just heartwarming. Like, you know, I think with, because we recently looked at I Am Family, right? And, you know, it's a similar thing. You have so much craziness going on in the world. It's just nice sometimes to watch something like this and, you know, see those small struggles conquered, right? See people striving and achieving, right? Just on that smaller scale. But it's an important scale for them, you know? How someone can be so reflective on who they are, right? How they navigate life. There's all of these things, right? That's what this shows us. And, you know, as I said at the start, it's that it's that thing that shines the light, right? It lets you understand there's people that, you know, we're told are different. But are they that different? You know what I mean? That's what this is, right? That's what this shows you. It's like, you know, everything. World cinema, just all of these different things give us this glimpse into other people's lives, other people's existences, right? Other people's wants, dreams, desires, right? Fears, all of that stuff. And you understand that, man, I've got those fears, right? I've got those desires. I've got those wants and needs and hopes. You know, it really bridges that gap and lets you understand that really the only thing that is separating you from them is sometimes language and distance. Everything else is pretty similar because, as I said, not everyone is the same, right? Just intellectually, not everyone is the same, you know? So it's just kind of like to even just think that someone with an intellectual disability, that you won't be able to interact with that person. It's stupid. It's a fallacy, right? It's nonsense, right? You've got a dumbass friend that does dumbass things, you know? Hey, it's tougher talking to them than it's gonna be talking to other people, right? So it's just like, yo, I love the fact that things like this are out there because it, you know, warms the heart. And it also lets you have a greater understanding of everyone that inhabits this world. You know, so yes, it's really nice. It's really interesting. And Ragnhild, she brings us into this in a way where I don't know, you just feel like a fly on the wall, right? You don't feel creepy or odd, you know what I mean? We're just observing. We are just learning, right? That's what this is. And we've got this score that plays, you know, a lot of classical and violin and piano, little, you know, these beds that help tie things together. Not trying to set a mood, right? But just helping the story transition. And it's really nice, you know? It's really nice. So, yeah, Being Ola. I believe it's in cinemas in certain parts of the country, in certain places, you know? I'll list all the information on the webpage for this episode. I think it's already been out. It might still be, you know, in screens in Norway. But yeah, I'll put that information on the webpage. And I would say, you know, I mean, if you like stuff like Sister Interrupted, Being Ola, gosh, there was another one interesting one we looked at the other year. Name has completely gone away from me. But if you like these kind of little slice of life documentaries, man, I'd say Being Ola is definitely a joint that you want to pay attention to. But yes, definitely be warned, it is subtitled, right? And there is no solid background behind those subs. So if you have difficulty with them, you know, that might be useful information for you. Okay, so yeah, Being Ola.